Nothing makes Judy Thale's heart soar quite like the roar of the crowd as she steps onto the stage. Anticipation hangs heavy in the air, mixing with the scent of sweat and stale beer to create the heady perfume of performance that she's come to love. The mic feels comfortably heavy in her hand, although she still misses her guitar. No, that's not right, she thinks. She doesn't play guitar, she just sings. Don't be silly, Judy. Focus. Your time to shine, pop star. Her eyes drift over the crowd in front of her as the lead-in to her set's first song kicks in. The synthetic, corporate-approved electric beat humming to life. Fairly small crowd tonight, 50 or so people, all with short-cropped haircuts and dressed in imperial military fatigues. Makes sense she's performing at an outpost, one that's seen heavy enemy contact. A lot of casualties. Corporate had agreed to send her here for morale purposes. Manager had told her that bases she played at saw an average of 7% increase in combat effectiveness for several weeks afterward. She was proud of that. Proud of doing good for manager. Judy would do anything for her. And so, she doesn't complain that the crowd is 1,000th the size of what she's used to. Likes it even. It takes her back to when she got her start. Her mind drifts back to her first performances, small, cramped house shows at friends' places or in the smoky dens and cheap bars they'd had to hide in. 10 people, if that, but close friends all. A sense of camaraderie like no other. Just Judy, her guitar, and the motley crew of Wait. No, don't be silly. It couldn't have happened. Manager wouldn't allow it. No. She must have gotten her start doing karaoke to imperial marching songs in good, loyalist bars. She focuses and her memories are overwritten. The run-down dives of the insurrectionists transform into smooth, sleek, imperial watering holes. The ragtag bunch she can't possibly have known fade, morphing into faceless imperials she doesn't remember, but who must have been her friends. She smiles. Another memory corrected. Manager would be proud. Judy blinks and clears her mind. The peppy stomps and claps of the song have kicked in, which means it's almost time for her to start singing. She prances over the stage back and forth, swaying her hips to the beat and shaking her butt to the audience a few times. To loud cheers and more than a few wolf whistles. The frilly pink skirt manager picked out for her barely covers her ass. For motivation, she'd said. Judy's happy to oblige. It's nothing they wouldn't have already seen anyway. Manager told her Judy's fan cams were quite popular on Imperial social media. Not that she'd ever be allowed access to those, of course. Manager handles that for her. She handles so much for her. Judy's so grateful. The guitar riff on the song begins to sound from the speakers set to the side of the stage. She twirls, doing a little pirouette in front of the massive, though tiny compared to the real thing, replica of a precious order-tight, draping herself over its gaudily bright pink foot, back arched. She throws her head back, looking up at her beloved machine, and brings the mic to her lips. It's been many a year since you left with no fear to crush the rebel scum to the beat of our drums and hang them from the gallows. Ragged cheers from the audience. This one's always a crowd pleaser. And I'm proud of your fight, pray for you every night, but I miss your strong will. And your absence a pill that I find too bitter to swallow. The words come by rote, purely automatic. Judy doesn't have to think about what she sings at all. Won't you come on home in your beast of chrome, my bold imperial girl? troopers in the audience shout the words of the chorus with her. The enthusiasm sends adrenaline coursing through Judy's system. With a grin, she takes advantage of the brief pause before the next verse to admire her order tight. It's a sleek, elegant thing, slim and trim as any star should be. The base plates are an elegantly silverish white, with bright pink as the accessory color on the overlaid armor plating. A fine golden trim separates the two layers. It's very garish. Not what Judy would have chosen, but then she doesn't have to choose. Manager does that for her. She's very grateful. If this is what Manager thinks is best, then it is. Take the newly installed noise cannons, the latest in sonic warfare, she'd been told. Blasts loud enough to shatter the reinforced combat-grade glass of mech cockpits and render the pilots within a disoriented mess bleeding from their ears. Or just straight-up mush, if she's close enough. Judy misses her old setup, with the massive amps haphazardly strapped to the back of her sweet Hope's Anthem. It'd been a mismatched little mongrel back then. The armor plating covered in motivational messages, slogans, and the occasional graffiti from her fans. It'd been garish in its own way, but it had heart. Felt like it was hers. Hell's, even the bulky, oversized, top-heavy head had its charm. Meant the Hope's Anthem had to have feet the size of warships to be able to balance properly, but hey, it let her install the rotating floor in the cockpit. It let her control the machine with jury-rigged motion capture. It hadn't been easy, but it let her perform live right on the front lines. The morale boost alone had helped swing many a battle. And hey, even though it wasn't exactly the style of music she made, she couldn't suppress a giggle thinking of the time some genius at base had snuck into the hangars at night and decorated the big round head like a disco ball. Judy, the voice from her earpiece cuts through her thoughts like a razor blade through dreams. All thoughts of her past, thoughts she should not have, bleed away. A warmth spreads through Judy's chest, unrelated to the heat of exertion, as she spins and whirls her body over the stage. It's her. The loud, blaring, relentlessly peppy music fades. The scent of old booze and fresh sweat falls away. For a moment, all is right in the world. You missed a line. Focus. Ice in her veins, terror in her gut, burning shame in her soul. Manager had given her an order to perform, and Judy is fucking up. Before the icy dread can seize her limbs and still her tongue, Manager's voice is in her ear again. It helps center Judy just enough to let her continue her performance without further failures. Do you need help, Judy? Help. Judy knows what that means. She wants it. Desperately. It helps her so much to just fall away and let Star handle the performance. But she knows she hasn't earned it. Not yet. She needs to be good for Manager first. Subtly, imperceptibly, to anyone but Manager watching behind the scene, Judy shakes her head. Her focus is fully back on the music. Now, she doesn't want to disappoint her further. No response. That's okay. She knows. Manager understood her. Judy smiles as she thinks of her, lets her eyes wander further over her wonderful machine. Yes, she thinks. The order tide is as it should be. That silly big head just made her an easy target and an inefficient fighter. She didn't need to play her music live. Manager's painstaking marketing research had discovered that playing her songs from an artificially curated playlist was almost as good. She's been told the algorithm selects the optimal song for the location, terrain, time of day, weather, force, composition, enemy disposition, and mission objectives. Sometimes she thinks she could do better, but she trusts Manager. Corporates deem the motivational effects of playing her songs scant sufficient. That would be enough. Besides, Judy can't do the generative, artificial, on-the-fly tweaking of her music to best fit the context each individual Imperial was hearing it in, ensuring they are optimally supported in whatever assignment they are undertaking. That kind of creativity was beyond her now. Carefully cut away with incision after incision, to ensure maximum mass market appeal. Even before that, she couldn't be in millions of places at once, playing millions of individually tailored versions of her songs the way the corporate LLM could. No, Judy thinks as her lips recite the words of her music by rote. This is an improvement. Things are better this way. She's sure of it. At some indiscernible earlier point, she'd slipped into her next song. It's another energetic one, riding high on the crowd's energy from the opener, feeding it, strengthening it. Manager said that getting them to work up a sweat drove up sales at the bar during breaks. I am the stalker twixt the rocks, I am the beep of target logs, I am her wrath with 47 rows of teeth in my steel jaws. The audience explodes. Faces already drenched in sweat, contorting in expressions of revelrous ecstasy. The writhing mass of soldiers in front of Judy becomes a whirling cavalcade of flesh and grease. It's a short song, scarce nearing the 2-minute mark. It was the first and last tune Manager had let Judy ride by herself after Judy had completed her rebranding under her watchful gaze. A little bit of her old spirit had still made its way in. As a last dying gasp, Judy's pretty sure Manager knows the lyrics are agonistic, on which side the eye is fighting on, and deliberately so. But she deigns to let Judy perform it anyway. She must know Judy would never want to write anything like that anymore. Maybe it was her idea of a punishment, forcing Judy to reckon with the insubordination she had still harbored even then. Maybe it was her idea of a reward. Judy doesn't know. Judy doesn't question anymore. She's a brand after all. A commercial does not question the jingles it plays. Whatever the reasoning, that song had been Judy's last. Everything she performs is out of her hands now. Designed by committee or by the machine that replaced them. She feels no connection to the music she makes anymore. There's no heart in it. The lines she gets now are shallow, lacking in passion. No, Judy corrects herself. They are marketable. It is her sacred duty to speak to the soul of every single imperial citizen out there, and that meant aiming for the broadest appeal possible. Even the lowest common imperial denominator deserved to be catered to by her music, to be able to consume her content without having to think. Besides, Judy thinks, it's okay if she doesn't feel any connection to the music she produces. Her connection to Manager is more than enough. Judy's joy at pleasing her radiates through in every sound she makes, every movement of her body. That will do. Thankfully, Judy manages to get through this song with no trouble. It helps that it's quick, it helps that it's short, it helps that even now she can't help but feel the tiniest bit of genuine resonance with the care and craft she put into it. She almost feels guilty for that last fact, but Judy stops herself. Manager would have corrected her if she was not permitted to, supposed to, feel that way, she's sure. Maybe a shred of authenticity is good for sales. As the final note of a song slams into place, ending as abruptly as Judy's silly little previous career, she has a moment to catch her breath. Her heart pounds in her throat. Judy smiles. That was more than acceptable. She can practically hear the merch sales rolling in from that performance. She's sure Manager is satisfied. It takes her a brief moment to identify the next song. It's softer, more subdued tones rolling over her ears. Ah, yes, the instrumental. The first time she performed it, Judy had been curious why Manager had put an instrumental song in a concert set. It's not like she plays an instrument, not anymore at least. She's not sure if she could anymore. It's been so long. She didn't question. She can't. Not her. But she had been curious why. Couldn't figure it out. Then Manager had brought out Star, and it all made sense. Right now, though, that won't be necessary. Judy knows what is expected of her. She struts over to the microphone stand, swaying her hips, and slowly places the mic in its holster. As she feels the soft click of it setting itself in place, her grip loosens and she lets the tips of her finger gently trace the metal of its body, still warm from where she held it, running them over the hard plastic of the holder, down to the cool chrome plating of the stand. She gradually sinks to her haunches, making sure to spread her legs as she squats. Her miniskirt leaves very little to the imagination. The raucous cheers from the audience indicate that it's having the desired effect. Swaying ever so slightly to the beat of the music, Judy sinks to her knees, hands running up and down the mic stand, head craned back, eyes looking up at the microphone, a look of carefully cultivated submission and rapturous bliss spreading across her face. The soldiers in the audience jeer and throw lewd remarks her way. They know what's being teased for them here. Judy runs her fingers down the stand one last time and relinquishes it. Instead, her hands dance towards her thighs, gliding over her clean-shaven flesh. As her fingers draw higher, she rises back up, hands racing up her hips, smoothly tracing over the silk of her blouse as she stands tall once more. The crowd cheers as her fingers reach the perky outlines of her breasts, nipples clearly visible throughout the textile of her clothes. She leans forward, hands darting up, pulling her neckline down, giving the crowd its first taste of what is to come. On cue, Judy spins, taking a few seductive steps back, facing away from the crowd. She flicks her miniskirt up with her hands as she walks, giving the crowd a good look at her other assets. It's rote at this point. Judy has long since gotten used to selling her body as well as her voice on manager's behalf. She tries not to think too hard about it. She wouldn't want to show discomfort. That'd disappoint manager. Instead, Judy lets her mind drift to the synthetic instruments playing from the canned speakers to the sides of the stage as her hands begin to slow, tantalizing process of unbuttoning her blouse one by one. She doesn't quite recognize the piece, of course. Corporate had received complaints for several concerned and, more importantly, well-connected citizens claiming that her music lacked creativity and variety. Their solution had been to artificially generate a new instrumental song for every concert Judy puts on, and to collate those in an ever-growing playlist. Judy can't quite remember the songs, isn't sure if they're any good, but the quantity of the output itself seemed to pacify her critics. Complaints had stopped. Or, well, mostly. Corporate had ordered her to make an example of one bull-headed critic that kept insisting on a lack of soul in her work just last week. It had been the first time she'd gotten to test the Order Tide's noise cannons. The pressure washers had taken a good few hours to get the stains out of every nook and cranny. As far as Judy knew, there hadn't been any further complaints after that. She shakes her head. She's getting distracted again. The memory of the red splatters covering the Order Tide's visors makes her hands tremble. She can't afford the delay in undoing her buttons. The music is almost hitting its crescendo. She needs to be ready soon. With some effort, Judy redirects her attention to the music washing over her. She tries to pick out the individual instruments. It's a little difficult through the AI-generated artifacting that corporate still hasn't quite been able to solve. She'd heard manager discuss making it a unique selling point of the medium. Manager so smart, so business-savvy. Judy adores her shrewdness so much. Scrunching her face in concentration a bit, she's looking away from the crowd. She can afford to. Judy starts picking apart the song. There's the synths in there, obviously. She's yet to release a song that doesn't feature those prominently, but she can also pick out a guitar, a keyboard, and some drums. Fairly standard so far, but there's something else in there she can't quite make out. A string instrument for sure, but something familiar even through the distortion and artifacting, something that reminds her of When she recognizes it, she has to suppress a gasp. A fiddle. Gods, how long has it been since she's heard one of those? Immediately, memories flood into her mind. Living room concert sessions in dingy pubs. Even the odd open air festival when the Imperials had been pushed back far and they were feeling particularly bold. Judy loved a good folk tune jam. She'd played with friends and strangers alike, though the latter would become the former so very quickly. She'd been shocked at how easy it had been to find a place in the harmonic whole, especially once she'd learned a few of the standard songs. One more hill, this fight is your fight. I dreamed I saw a Selig last night, and of course, all you Imperials bound to lose. Judy played alongside all stripes of musicians and all sorts of instruments. Other guitars, of course, oboes, ukuleles, bodrans, tin whistles, bouzoukis, even the odd lute or mandolin. So many rich varieties in sound and creativity, all of them majestic and beautiful in their own unique ways. With great difficulty, Judy manages to avoid a tear coming to her eye. But gods, it does her good to Judy, manager's voice cuts through her reverie like ice. This time it is not reassuring in the slightest. Judy can hear the anger in her tone. It is only hammered deeper with her next words. You are behind. Focus. Yes, manager, Judy responds automatically, even though manager can of course not hear her over the music. Regardless, her hands move faster, all thoughts of her past discarded in a haste to make things right for manager. Violins are only good for those stuffy classical music concerts manager occasionally drags her along to as a parade piece anyway. Judy has undone all but the last of her buttons on her blouse, and she spins around, beginning her stride back to the podium. Normally, she'd be much more delicate and deliberate about this, but she's fucked up. She's in a rush. Unfortunately, it's that hurry that causes Judy to make her next mistake. She lifts her foot as she turns, ready to take her first step before she even fully faces the crowd again, but the movement is too fast, too eager, and her foot catches on her thigh. With a terrified yelp and a sinking feeling of utter dread in her gut, Judy Thale trips over herself live on stage. For a moment, she feels frozen in midair, her eyes finally seeing, really seeing where she is, what she's performing, who she's performing for. For a moment, Judy feels nothing but utter disgust and self-loathing about what she's become, what she has let her art be twisted into. Then, her face connects with the podium, and the shock of the impact sends all thoughts flying from her head. The crowd goes silent. They're unsure if this is a part of the performance or if something has actually gone wrong. Judy, manager's voice in her ears again. She sounds furious, more so than Judy has ever heard her before. But that's okay. Judy can take her anger. She's just glad manager is here to fix Judy's mistake. She knows what's coming. There's only one answer to this kind of failure. She welcomes it. Judy, manager says once more, to be certain she has her full attention. On the air. A slight moan escapes Judy's lips as her eyes roll back into her head, and all of her being is dissolved into nothing but the radiant light of the stage lights manager has carved into her soul. As she gracefully hops to her feet with a demure little giggle and an apologetic wave of her hands, Judy Thale dies, and Star takes her place. The rest of the concert passes in a blur. Judy doesn't even remember the songs that she performed, that Star performed for her after her blunder. She has vague impressions of bright lights, of dancing, of dramatically yanking open a blouse once she got back up, popping the final button clean off and sending it flying to the audience. She's pretty sure a brawl had started over it. After her final song, of course, came the after party. This party stood out to her a little more. The start, at least. It had been unusual, not like how things usually go. After her encore, her final bow, she'd waited. The lights had not dimmed, the music had been over, the entertainment had not. The crowd had been wild, but they'd been stationed out here in this far-flung corner of the empire with no way to know if the vids on social media had been authentic or generated. They knew the consequences of acting out of line. Even as drunk as they were, all of them had eyed her up with utterly undisguised lust. A few had pushed their way to the front of the stage, but none had dared to hop on. None had dared to make the first move, lest they be executed for insubordination. Then, thankfully, a manager had appeared from backstage. This memory is the only one that stand etched crystal clear in Judy's mind. Her presence always is. Manager had placed her hand on the small of Star's back. She had not been able to contain an ecstatic squeal when that had happened, and smiled at the crowd. "Go ahead," she'd said, and shoved Star right off the podium. The soldiers had caught her, of course. Nobody wanted their prize to be injured before getting to have their fun. Briefly, Star had gotten to crowd surf. She loved it, Judy thinks, especially the parts where the woman holding her up had snuck in a squeeze or a pinch. Those always made Star feel like she'd done a good job. Eventually, quite quickly surely, one of them had even torn Star's miniskirt right off her. That seemed to have been the signal. Quickly the troops had put Star on the ground, where she automatically sank down. Before her knees had even hit the floor, someone had already pressed a throbbing cock in her hand. With the peppy obedience that Star always loved to show, she'd begun stroking it, even as rough, calloused hands began grabbing and squeezing at every part of her. Within seconds, her other hand was dragged towards a sopping wet cunt, and her fingers began their work. Finally, a second cork had been shoved in her direction and dutifully popped into her mouth. From that point onward, it had been a carousel of hard members and wet slits forced into and onto her. These memories, too, were hazy, partly because Star had been the one to endure them this time, partly because of how repetitive they had gotten over the many concerts and after-parties manager had had Judy entertain. The only thing that stands out to her is that she thinks someone had spat in her mouth, maybe? She smacks her lips. Salty, tangy. A glance at her still dripping chest confirmed her suspicion. Right, not spit then. She shakes her head, even so slightly, trying to clear her mind. It works, a tiny bit. Star's still calling the shots, of course. Judy hasn't been brought back yet, not fully. But outside of concerts and after-parties, Star's presence isn't as totalizing as it could be. Judy is here, a little bit. It's like she's watching a movie. Nothing she has control over, but she can watch. Sensations roll in, even if they feel distant. She feels a comfortable weight around her neck. Star doesn't have to look for Judy to know it's the bright pink snakeskin collar manager lets her wear sometimes, if she's been good. The gentle clinking of the rose gold chain manager must be holding confirms her suspicions. She's on her knees next to manager's desk. Gosh, Star must have really pulled things around. Or, Judy considers as the sounds of a conversation begin to slowly filter into her ears, manager has company that she wants to show off to. Has to, maybe. Do not deny your efficacy, handler, as Mara. An icy, level voice says. But I do question your efficiency. This, a gloved hand attached to an arm covered in a long black navy greatcoat, gestures towards Judy, is simply not a cost-effective use of your resources. You should be targeting ace pilots, not musicians. Star blinks. She's not sure what's happening, but someone is disapproving of her. A whine escapes her lips as she shrinks further into herself. Quickly, she feels the weight of another hand, manager's hand on her head. Manager ruffles her hair. All of Star's confusion, insecurity, and terror melts away, leaving only bliss. Are you fucking kidding me, Tesla? Manager says. That is handler Tesla to you. Handler as Mara. The voice cuts in. It is like nightmares given flensing form. Reflexively, Star puffs up her chest with a humph at this threat towards manager. One of her fingers on her lips quickly soothes her. Fine. Handler Tesla, manager responds. Are you fucking kidding me? You've seen my reports, right? Combat efficacy up by 13%. Desertions and defections reduced by 24. You can't seriously claim my work is not serving the Empire as well as yours has, if it's not serving the Empire better. Last I heard, that masterpiece of yours could barely scrape a sortier together anymore. My Judy? The emphasis of ownership makes Judy's heart flutter and her thighs rub together. Has, as of today, been serving loyally for 10 years, with 0 reduction in field effectiveness. Star dares to steal a glance at the woman across the table from manager. She's dressed like manager used to be, before she traded her parade uniform for a more civilian look, slacks and a blouse. But she looks very different. Her manager's face is a sunbed tanned olive. Her face is a pale white, dotted only in a few subtle freckles. Pale blonde hair falls straight down her shoulders from underneath a peaked cap, in contrast to manager's curly black hair that only barely comes to above her shoulders. Her eyes are a blue that is devoid of all warmth, calculating, like manager's own eyes of hazel, but mechanically so. Manager's calculations are of value, of money. Star isn't sure what the woman on the other side of the desk is calculating, but it's much greater than that. Everything, perhaps, she thinks. Despite manager's hand on her head, she shivers. The woman's eyes narrow as she hears manager's words. For a moment, all is still. Then, the woman rises to her feet. The slack of her boots on the floor sends a shiver down Star's spine. I see now that this was a waste of my time. I was under the impression that I was here to assess your performance. But it would appear that all you are interested in is throwing petty insults. I'm not inclined to grant you more of my precious time, if this is how you intend to use it. Handler as Mira. Rest assured, my report will not be positive. Manager snorts and kicks her boots up on the desk. She leans back and scritches Star behind the ear. And it's a good thing for me I graduated a dozen years ago and been corporate's #1 source of revenue for the last 7, ain't I? The other woman does not respond. Each clack of her boots as she departs makes Star flinch. Once her footsteps fade into the distance, manager gets to her feet. Star rises with her, of course. The chain isn't quite long enough to comfortably stay down when she stands. That's the point, of course, but a quick tug on the chain indicates that manager wants Star up. Despite your mistake, you did well today. Very well. I have a gift for you, Judy. A celebration of your decennial with me. Star blinks. A gift? From manager? She can barely believe it. Doesn't know what to say. Isn't sure if she could, even if she did. Manager smiles and pulls something from behind her desk. Star's eyes focus on the object. A guitar, she realizes after a moment. It's old and really rather quite battered. There's plenty of scrapes and marks in its dinked-up body. The strings look well worn. It's got something written on it. This machine kills fascists, she realizes. Something about the handwriting is familiar. She can't quite place a finger on it, though. Star's confused. She's not sure what to do here. Is she supposed to play this? She doesn't think she can. She doesn't think a beat-up old thing like this would fit her image. Doesn't think manager would want her to, but she's offering it to her, isn't she? So maybe she should? Unsure, Star looks at manager expectantly. Manager returns her gaze. Realizes there is no reaction forthcoming. A smile others may call cruel creeps onto her face. Judy, she says, off the air. Recognition slams into Judy as full control of her body returns to her. The way it looks, the way it smells, gods, the way it felt under her fingers, before her calluses were carefully exfoliated from her skin. The handwritten message on its body. Her handwriting. How on earth did Manager find this? Now, as Judy remembers, before her final, ill-fated sortie, she'd left it back at headquarters. Judy, Manager says before she can finish that train of thought. On the air. Star rushes back in, not quick enough to understand what Judy was thinking, but quick enough to still feel the bottomless well of anger coursing through her body. That anger could, of course, not be directed at Manager. Never at Manager. So she thinks it must be anger towards that fucking guitar she's feeling. She hates it. It makes her so confused. Makes her not know what Manager wants her to do. She hates it so much. Suddenly, Star realizes what Manager expects from her. It's all so very clear. Practically in order, even if not one spoken out loud. In one smooth, eager, furious motion, Star grabs the guitar by the neck, yanks it from Manager's grasp, and, heaving it over her head with both hands, smashes it against the floor. The wood crunches and shatters satisfyingly, splinters flying everywhere. Star lifts it back up and brings it back down, and again, and again, and again, slamming the offending instrument onto the unyielding floor until all she's holding is a broken piece of wood with a few strings drooping limply from the side. Manager inclines her head. Very good, Judy. Come. A tug on the leash helps clarify her order, but Star doesn't need it. She'd heard her order through any rage. The ruined guitar, broken now as much as its owner has been for a very long time, falls from a limp grasp, clattering to the ground. Star meekly follows in Manager's footsteps as she leads the way out of her office. Star's not curious where they are going, does not care as long as she's with Manager. Manager tells her anyway. I hope you're ready, she says. We are going to chat with corporate. Star nods happily. Talks with corporate are always long. That means many hours of getting to kneel next to Manager. Days like that are a blessing to her. Yes, Manager continues. We've been looking into finding the talent of the next generation. We'd like your input on who you'd think be a good fit to follow in your footsteps. Had Judy been here, she could, perhaps, have considered the implications. Thought about what Manager meant about someone following in Judy's footsteps. She could perhaps have felt the pain of the splinters digging into her hand. But Judy's not here. Star is. And Star is only happy to be able to help Manager. With a pep in her step and a smile on her face, Star follows Manager towards the discussion concerning her retirement. The show must go on after all.